Good morning, guys. Welcome to today's lesson, April 24th, Circle Equations, Day 2. Today's due now. Find the mistake in Mr. Schaub's work from yesterday. Very impressive. Shout out Jania. Out of the 55 of you who watched yesterday's video, she was the only one to pick up on the error. So this was example 3 from yesterday, where we were finding the equation and the radius, essentially, of the circle when given the center and a point that it passes through. So a different style question. Not just write the equation, we had to substitute the center, we had to substitute a point xy that it passes through, and we ended up here with a radius of radical 85. Right, so when I inserted it into the equation, I wrote radical 85. So we're looking right here now. That's the mistake, because when you're writing the equation, you see here, you have to have the radius squared. So when we're solving, right, we end up with a radius of radical 85. That's true. However, when we insert it into the equation, it should not have that radical. So your final answer should have been x minus 3 squared plus y minus 10 squared is equal to 85. So remember, when you're writing it into the equation, you need the radius squared. All right, nice job, Jania. All right, so we're going to get some extra practice today on this topic. Here's your equation of a circle formula. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. Remember, hk is your center, r is of course your radius, and xy is really any point around the circle. It could be that coordinate there, this point, this point, this point, any point around the circle that can be substituted in for xy to satisfy the equation so that it's balanced and that one side is indeed equal to the other. So the first 4 questions deal with finding the center and radius given the equation. So let's look at this first one here. Here's your equation. Remember, for the center, you have to change the signs. So our x value for the center, instead of positive 1, would be negative 1. And your y value for the center, instead of negative 3, would be positive 3. And now for the radius, remember, this is that 16 there, that's not the radius, that's the radius squared, because that's in the equation. So if you know that r squared is equal to 16, we would have to square root both sides, and you would find that the radius is equal to 4, which is choice 1. Alright, so they're quick. You can see the equation, find the center, find the radius, try the next 3 for that section. Now, writing the equation given the center and radius. So now we're working in reverse. This one actually gives you the diameter, but of course we can find the radius from that. So you see, write an equation of a circle whose center is negative 3, 2, and whose diameter is 10. So diameter is equal to 10. That means our radius is equal to 5. And remember, this is our center, so this is hk. You have to remember your equation for a circle. That's not something that's given on a reference sheet or anything like that. It's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals to r squared. And now when they say minus h and minus k, you're just negating it, which means you're just changing the sign. So if you see positive, you change to negative. If you see negative, you change to positive. So as we substitute here, we get x, h up here is negative 3, so we have to write positive 3, so x plus 3 squared plus y. The k value is 2, so you have to negate that, so minus 2 squared is equal to 5 squared, which 5 squared is equal to 25. So I wouldn't write 5 there. You could write 5 squared and then write another line to show how 5 squared becomes 25, but make sure that your final equation has 25 and not 5. Alright, so you have a bunch of questions just like that, writing the equation given the center and the radius. So try those 4 and you can check back later in the day. Now writing the equation given the graph. So this is really the same thing because you can see the center and you can see the radius, but right now your center, your hk value, is point O, so that is a coordinate, is -4, 1. And your radius is equal to this segment here, which is 3 units. So pick your answer choice based on that. It would be choice 3. Alright, so you change your sign for your x and your y value. And you have to make sure that when you're writing the equation, you write the radius squared. So 9, where does that come from? 3 squared, that's equal to 9. Now, these are a couple more challenging regions type questions that we're going to see throughout the rest. We are going to talk more algebraically. Where we're going with this, guys, for the rest of the year, we're really going to be focusing on Algebra 2, because if you do the right thing for marking period 4, and you make sure that you pass the class and the final exam, you'll be moving on to Algebra 2. That make sure you know that that's based on, all right, I did the right thing for the marking period 4, I did my delta mass, I did my daily lessons in OneNote, all right, and you get a respectable score on your final exam, you will be moving on to Algebra 2. So what we're going to do, we're going to focus on Algebra 2, we're going to get you all set. A lot of factoring and just like really fundamental skills that you really need for Algebra 2, and you'll do great at it as long as you're following along. So these questions can be done algebraically. There's a lot of algebraic skills that come into these types of questions. So I'm going to show you how to do them in Geogebra first. So really we're just going to put it in Geogebra, we're going to get our answer. As we go through those fundamental Algebra 2 skills, we'll revisit a topic like this and I'll show you the algebraic way. Alright, so for now, we're just going to use Geogebra. As you see, what is an equation of a circle whose center is 1, 4 and diameter is 10? Now you see these equations in choices 1 through 4 and you're probably like, where did they come from? That's part of the algebraic skills we're going to talk about later on. But you've never really seen equations written like that, but those are really their equations of circles. And you'll see that as we put them into Geogebra. Alright, so let's take a look and put all of our answer choices in. Remember, we need the center to be 1, 4. And we need the diameter to be equal to 10, which means, of course, our radius has to be equal to 5. Alright, so choice 1. That's x squared minus 2x plus y squared minus 8y equals 8. Alright, does that have a center of 1, 4? So that point, is that the center of the circle? Yeah, it is. Alright, does it have a radius of 5 and a diameter of 10? You can count. Count from point A to the circle. I'm going to go from A to the right. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So it ends up being choice 1. Now it's good to check your other answer choices and see how that those do not work. Like the second choice is x squared plus 2x plus y squared plus 8y equals 8. Alright? You can see it's a different circle. It does definitely not have a center of 1, 4. We'll throw in one more answer choice. Choice 3, x squared minus 2x plus y squared minus 8y equals 83. A much bigger circle. Alright, but you can see choice 1 did have that center that we needed, which was 1, 4, and a radius of 5. Alright, the next one. Now they give you an equation. The equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared plus 6y is equal to 7. What are the coordinates of the center and the length of the radius of the circle? So what we're going to do, we're going to graph that equation. I know that's written in some weird looking form that you've never really seen before. That's fine, but as you graph it in Geogebra, you'll see exactly what that center point is and what the radius is. And actually the Algebra 2 skill that's really needed here is completing the square. Maybe you remember that from Algebra 1, but that tends to be something that gives students a very difficult time. But like I said, we're going to go back and we're going to take a look at a whole lesson of completing the square, really break it down, and you should be good to go. Alright, so let's graph that equation in Geogebra, clear everything out. The equation they gave us is x squared plus y squared plus 6y is equal to 7. So here is your circle. Your center is here, which is the point 0, -3, and your radius is, just count the units, that would just be 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So a center of 0, -3, and a radius of 4 units. Choice 2. Now think about what they did in choices 3 and 4. They're showing the radius squared, right? 4 squared is equal to 16. Alright, so essentially they, in their algebraic steps, when they solved, they forgot to square root at the end when finding the radius. Because now we're finding the radius, we have to square root. When we're writing the equation, we need the radius squared. Alright, and finally, number 10 here. What is an equation of a circle whose center is at 2, -4, and is tangent to the line x equals -2? Now, to be tangent to a line, that essentially means that this line, x equals -2, that's a line that hits the circle at one point. Remember a tangent, what a tangent is? We talked about tangents, secants, chords, all that. A tangent hits something one time at one specific point. Okay, not something it hits a circle. Alright. So I also want you to think about 2 answer choices you could eliminate. Alright, if the center is 2, alright, they said the center is 2, -4. So that means in your equation those signs have to change. In choices 3 and 4, they didn't change the signs when transferring it over to the equation. Alright, so let's see between choices 1 and 2, which one has that center of 2, -4, and is tangent to that line, x equals -2. So we have x minus 2 squared plus y plus 4 squared is equal to 4. Alright, so does that have that center of 2, -4? It sure does. Alright, is it tangent to the line x equals -2? Well, let's graph that line as well that they told us about, x equals -2. No good, because it does not actually hit. Alright, that line doesn't actually hit the circle at all. It hits the circle in 0 spots. Alright, so let's check choice 2. X minus 2 squared plus y plus 4 squared. It's the exact same equation, except equal to 16. Boom, you can see it has that same center, 2, -4. Alright, and that tangent, x equals -2, alright, hits the circle one time. So we would get choice 2. Alright, and that's it for today. So just make sure you go back and you complete these problems. They're pretty straightforward. Alright, just converting from the equation, finding the center and the radius, and then using the center and the radius to write the equation. Now remember where we're at, guys. All right, what we're going to do, we're going to be on to Algebra 2. So what I did in your folder here, right, in the content library, you have Module 5, which we've been working in, but as of Monday, we're going to be working in the Algebra 2 folder, so at some point, make sure that you either copy over the folder, but you can very easily just add your own section and label it Algebra 2. But that's where I'll be checking your Algebra 2 lessons. Make sure you have an Algebra 2 folder. Your Delta Math was due last night. It's still open for most of the credit, so you can take a look at that if you didn't get a chance to finish it. And that's it. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.